So once again, Lo, thank you very much for taking your time to take part in this personal branding conference. And before we start, I want to ask you one thing. How would you describe yourself in one sentence for the viewers?
Well, I'm going to mess you up because I'm not going to answer that right away. What I would like to ask you is, what is the primary objective of the branding conference?
Well, it is my dream to let people know about what personal branding can do for them. What can they do with the personal branding? And I believe that it is necessary right now to think about personal branding and you as a brand in order to be relevant in the market, in the job market. So this is one of the reasons I contacted you, because I've read what you have produced, and I've read all the articles, and I found some interesting things that you might want to share with our viewers.
Okay, so given that, so that's a good framework. If I was interviewing for a job, I would say I'm a results-oriented executive that can handle complex business and manufacturing problems. Since I'm not interviewing for a job, my brand would be the ability, a person who can go into an organization, whether it's 100 people or 100,000 people, and figure out what they have to do to hire the best people in the world for any position they have open. So I would say, from my perspective, the brand is somebody in 30 seconds, the person you're interviewing has to quickly grasp, oh, this is a person that I want to understand, and your personality and your strengths have to come across. So that's how I would perceive it and give you at least a reasonable answer.
All
Thank
right.
goodness I'm not interviewing for a job. I'm too old. So
Yeah, this is a good thing, because I can see right now that the market has changed a lot since I was last interviewing for a job. What is your perspective on the current situation on the job market right now, and how is it different to, I don't know, 5 years ago?
well, I think there's really two job markets. The public job market, which is people who apply to a position. In addition, there's a hidden job market, and it's everybody else. And when you really look at everybody else, because this is what I talk about to companies, the best jobs are found in the hidden job market. Now, sometimes they're published on a job board, but the reality is it's far better to get interviewed and get assessed for that job by going through the back door. The back door is I have to find someone who knows somebody who's hiring for that job. So that to me is a better way of getting a better job. It's a totally different process. The jobs are better. They're customized for you. They treat you better. The odds are better. All of those things say, hey, how do I, even if I have a great personal brand, the probability that you apply to a job and get interviewed is 1 in 100 or less. If you can go through the back door, it's 15 or 20 to less. So all of a sudden you just change your odds, improve them 5 to 10 times by going through the same job through the back door. And by going through the back door, you'll find out, oh, we're not only looking for a financial analyst, we're looking for a senior analyst and a product marketing person. Maybe we should look at you for this job. So all of a sudden it just opens up a whole different venue. So I think the difference is companies still focus on applying, but the reality is there's a shift to finding people through their networks and through referral programs, and good candidates should figure out how to get into that network.
Okay, and do you think that's gonna get even more important in the following years? Because this is the situation right now.
Absolutely, it's gonna accelerate. And then all the talk, just to give you a sense, Piotr, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. I'm speaking at Talent Connect, and I've got about 5 presentations to recruiters in the next 4 weeks, to hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, well, collectively it'll be thousands of recruiters. And yes, the trend is clearly there, and recruiters are emphasizing that. Technology is supporting that. So I still think there's an emphasis on candidates applying to jobs, but recruiters are starting to de-emphasize that channel.
Okay, so the next question, the obvious one, how would I, as a person, prepare for that, for the change? What do I have to do to be, I don't know, up on the market and be relevant?
Okay, there's 2 issues. Number one, you have to be good at what you do. If you're not good at what you do, it doesn't matter. So that's step 1, is being capable and competent to do the work you want to do. The second step is how do you get to find a job doing that work? And I would say that's through largely referrals, networking, and meeting people who could possibly connect you to people who know other people. But let me make a statement just to very clarify everybody who's listening to this. Networking is not meeting as many people as possible and hopefully a job sticks. Networking is meeting a few people who know you very, very well, who can introduce you to other people who they know very, very well. And it's that referral, it's networking based on referrals. Okay, I know you, Piet, or I don't really know you, but let's assume I did. Hey, is there anybody you know in your network that might be thinking of hiring product marketing people? You get introduced to them, you get introduced to those people, and that's how you build your network. It's a lot of legwork, but it's not shaking hands with a lot of people. It's going out and really working your network and building your network that way. So that's how those two steps. Be good at what you do and build a network of people who can introduce you to other people.
All right, thank you. That's a really good advice. And I want to go now to I think one of the main reasons we have these conversations, because I've read the article on the LinkedIn about the 4 basic jobs, and I've seen it had a great success and a lot of readers. How did you come about this idea, and what difference did it make to your work?
Wow, if I go back, probably I presented that 25, 30 years ago, and it's hard, but so let me do it. Let me draw a graphic verbally. Well, the 4 jobs. Basically, if you're familiar with a corporate life cycle, companies start out with an idea. They tend to grow if the idea is a good one. They tend to build it up. They then tend to reach some level of maturity and they scale it up. And then they have to produce at a high level of quality to keep the business growing. So the first phase of that is coming up with ideas and thinking, hey, how am I going to do something? Good new idea, new strategy, new plan, new product. The second stage is I got to take that product, and those I call the creators or the thinkers. The second stage is I got to build that into something, from an idea into something tangible. I call those the builders. But they got to, there's not a lot of process, not a lot of things going on. You got to just kind of take from scratch and put something into reality. Both are very difficult. But now all of a sudden you got to kind of sustain that and grow it. And I call that the improvers. Okay, you got something that's kind of sloppy, but how do I build it into a business? And those I call the improvers. And once you build it into a business, you've got to kind of execute every day. You got to write great code. You got to have great sales. You got to have great quality assurance. To help that whatever the job is, you got to deliver the goods every single day. So those how the 4 jobs were created: producers, improvers, builders, and idea people. What's interesting though is while companies grow thinking, building, improving, producing, people grow the opposite way. They become producers first. They have great skills. Okay, I learned my skills. Now I want to get better at it. I want to manage people. I become an improver. Hey, I can come up with a great idea. I become a builder. And even have, based on that, I can think of how do I do something with all my capabilities. So it's interesting as the conflict exists as companies grow in one direction, people grow in the other direction. And if you can match it properly, you've got a great career opportunity. But that's really how I came up with it.
You told us about the 4 basic jobs, but if you want to achieve something as a company, you have to build a team, right? And yes. What is the approach towards building teams and using those people and those 4 basic jobs to to build a team and get the job done?
Well, I think that's a great question and a great issue for a manager. So at one level, you could think about the focus, and I think you've read enough what I've done, Peter, that I believe in what I call performance-based job descriptions, which define the outcomes of the work. Rather than saying have excellent communication skills, I always ask managers, what does that look like on the job? And it might be present a monthly report to the executive team. For 5 years of technical skills, it might be develop a new user interface to support the billing of 10,000 transactions a week, whatever it may be. But it's always outcome-based. And that's how when we build a job description for a specific opening, that's how we do it. We ask managers, what does this person need to do to be successful? I could take that up one level to the department and ask the hiring manager, what does the department need to do to be successful? Let's write all the key. The department has to take over and launch a new product line in the next year. It has to coordinate all the product requirements documents with marketing, engineering, manufacturing, and distribution and sales and advertising. So then you could break that down to individual people. Okay, let's take a look at what are the creative things in this job. The whole department, what are some creative tasks that this person needs to have, which would be the thinking. Is there anything strategic, new ideas, new planning, new ideas? The second step is, okay, where do we have to take ideas that don't exist. We just have to build them from scratch. That's the builder. So we'd say, okay, ask the department, do we have any things that really require someone who can think from an idea and into reality? I'd also ask the manager then, okay, what are the areas and projects we have to really improve? We already have processes, already have procedures. Is there anything we have to improve or build, and we even improve the quality of the people we have? And where do we really have to be exceptional at executing? Where do we have to be great technology? Do we have to really get into detailed technical issues where we need that? So you could build a department that way, and you could say, okay, hey, Mary is great at thinking strategy. Bill is a great team developer. We have Pietro, and we have whomever, Haroon, who is really awesome technical person. Let's assign that. So that's how you could do is you could break the department objectives into tasks by work type, thinker, builder, improver, producer, and then allocate those jobs to individual people. And I think when you do it that way, all of a sudden people are doing work they like to do. And number two, you have a team that works together, not everybody the same person. That rarely ever happens. That's the way it could happen. Most times it just, let's hire a bunch of technical people and hopefully everyone else can do the other stuff. So
And
that's the sad part, but it could work.
yeah, it doesn't work out usually, and this is when you come in, right? To set
Well, I
up
hope
everything.
to, but not always.
Not always.
I've been doing this for a lot of years, and very few people actually do it. There's some great managers who do it, and you got to love managers that think that way because they really know how to build teams, and they do think that way.
Okay, so this brings us to the next question, and I think it might be interesting to hear your answer. What is the biggest misconception about hiring people?
Well, I just wrote another post on LinkedIn. I said the 15 dumb things that managers do to prevent hiring people.
Yep.
The most, I would say, there's a few of them. The biggest one is judging people too quickly based on first impressions and how affable and friendly they are. And people just do it. I like this person, so you ask easier questions. I don't like this person. They were late. They don't look right. They were a little bit nervous. So you ask harder questions. So if you can get past that, you're almost going to eliminate 50% of your problems. The second level is to use generic skills and competencies to assume great results. Just like I said, I have companies that had won, brilliant thinking skills, ability to influence other people. So I always say is generic competencies don't mean anything. What does that look like on the job? So if I was a job seeker, I always tell jobs, ask the hiring manager, what does this person need to do to be successful? How do they do it? Even asking the question brands the person as assertive. Then you have to answer the question, of course, properly, but the point is even asking it. So I would say using generic skills, 10 years of this, 4 years of that, these kind of competencies is the second series of mistakes that people make, not converting it to the job. So even if someone does poorly and a bad first impression, I always say, still ask the manager within a minute, what does this person need to do to be successful? I'd like to give you some examples of work that I've done that are related to that. So those are the two that I would say. Making judgments too soon, and then using data that doesn't predict success, generic data, and assuming that you're great at everything when it's or incompetent at everything.
All right, great. I want to ask you now this question. What is your greatest win business-wise so far, and what is your greatest learning? I don't want to say a mistake, but like...
Oh, you could say mistake. You could say it.
Yeah, but what did you learn from this as an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting. If I had to say the greatest job I ever had, which is different than the greatest win, which was before I became a recruiter. I was 27 years old. I was with a high-tech company that was building the first handheld calculators, the first ones in the world. We were growing leaps and bounds. And I was director of business operations, the best job I ever had. I just absolutely loved it. Even 40 years later, that was a great job. It really was great. Going around the world, negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts with big companies. And I was a kid, and it was great. I just loved it. From a success standpoint, the best job was I went into another company and turned it around. It was hard work. I mean, it was 24/7, 7 days a week for a year. But I hated my boss. I said, I'll do it, but you're a jerk, and I quit. He just... No matter what I did to turn it around, that's the only reason I became a recruiter. I literally quit 4 times, the group president, 4 times in a year, the chairman tried to get me back, and I said, no, I can't deal with this guy. I'm out of here. And I was only going to be a recruiter for a year. So now I'd say the greatest win was I'm very unusual as a recruiter because I've been in business running companies pretty early. As I started becoming a recruiter, it was nothing different than a business process. Hey, you got people, you got jobs. How do you put them together efficiently? How do you get good people? It's not a job description, it's a career move. So you start seeing how do good people take jobs, what's the process they do. So the creation of performance-based hiring is probably the biggest win, but it was really came back from those other opportunities I had very early. I do have an engineering background, I do have a manufacturing background, I did very, very well. I became a recruiter almost because I just hated my boss. There was no plan. I said, I'm out of here. Literally, it was stupid. If I look back, it was a stupid decision. But it worked out because I could see right away. So, and my first job was a plant manager making automotive wheels, the wheels that are on trucks. And it didn't have a job description. I just talked to the guy who knew the president of the company. I said, Mike, let's just go out in the plant. Literally spent a half hour in the plant, and we could clearly see had bad yield on material. Material was laid out poorly. The chrome, everything about the factory was a poor factory. I said, so you need somebody to fix this factory, right? And he said, yeah, you find somebody, I'll pay you a fee. So I never used the job description. And I would actually tell candidates, find out what the job is. In fact, if you're in a job where it's tangible, you could say, hey, let's walk through the situation. I'd like to see what your problem are. I'd like to see if I can help you fix it. If you could do that as an interview, I guarantee you'll get the job.
Yeah,
So
that's a real awesome advice.
Yeah, it's changed the whole rules of the game. Prove that you can do the work, but you got to figure out what the work is before you can prove you can do it.
Now, the learning, the mistake.
Well, I think they're all mistakes. I think it's a fair question. I think the way I tend to go in knowing the solution as opposed to listening. So I can't say that's a mistake. Our company, if I had to look at it globally, I have a nice little company. We're very, very successful, but I'm satisfied where we are. When I did about 10 or 12 years ago, I did raise a couple $1 million in the dot-com boom and lost it all. And I lost a lot of good friends at that time. So I say it's a mistake was that I felt what you had to do. I took money from people I knew. It was the stupidest thing to ever do. It was supposed to be 9 months of money, and I let it go 2 years, but that's neither here nor there. It really became very combative. And I think the mistake was I lost the vision of what the company was going to be. So my definition of leadership is having a vision of where you're going and having the ability to execute in that vision. And I could remember, one of the board members said, what's your vision for this? And I lost it. It was the dot-com boom. I just didn't have one. And I realized right then, I said, that was a failure. But I learned from it. If you don't have the vision, if you can't articulate the vision and then execute the plan, you got nothing. You need both. So that's why a lot of our stuff came out that way. And I think if you look at the U.S. presidents, what I listen for everyone is to have a vision and can they execute. So I won't go into, but you could look at every single, and I don't think there are many there that both have a vision and can execute. So I go with Carly Fiorina, who's a businesswoman. Whether she's the right person, I'm not going to make that statement. But if you listen to her interviews, she has a clear vision of what she wants to do, and she has a track record of execution. She also got fired from Hewlett Packard, but that's, you could contend. So I'm not going to say she's perfect, but I just look at that as an example of one of the few people. All the other candidates, some of them don't have very good visions, and most of them can never execute. So it's just an interesting way of looking at people. But I think if I was giving a candidate advice, is have a vision and demonstrate that you can execute something comparable.
All right, brilliant. That is also the answer to the question, what makes a great leader? And I wanted to ask you this question, but you've already answered it. So it's pretty good. Now, I've met you initially via social media. I just read the LinkedIn article. I followed up with the book and the rest of the articles. And this is the question regarding the personal branding as well. Like, which platforms are you using and why those platforms?
Okay, I'm going to go back one step and then I'll answer the question. I was talking to my wife this morning, I'm going to interview you. I get these requests often. I can't take them all. But you did something unusual. You had done your research. You said what you were going to do. Your written English was absolutely superb, and I could see what you do, that you are a remarkable, brilliant person. I mean, that's what I saw. And that I said, I got to reach out to this guy. I had no idea what you were doing. So then I take that to candidates. You're going to go through interview through the back door. How are you going to get through the back door? You got to meet these people. You don't just talk to them and send some stupid statement. You do your research. You describe something that you can do that's accomplished, and you get, hey, I'd like to just talk to you about this idea. So from there, that standpoint, I'd say if I was looking, and I did tell this young guy, he got a degree, an MBA from a school in Italy. I didn't actually know he was Italian because we only did it by social media. He said he wanted to work at the telecommunications company. He had an MBA from a school in Europe, and I didn't really know the details. And I just said, why don't you do a competitive analysis of the 3 telecommunication companies you'd like to work at and send it to the VP of marketing? He said, do you think they'd listen to it? I said, I have no clue, but at least you got a chance. So you do something. You don't just use social media and hopefully connect. You do something. You use social media and you connected with me, and I saw whatever you presented was very professional and profound. I said, I got to talk to this person. If you're a young person or older, it doesn't matter. Say, I can see that you're looking for 16 engineers to do this work. It appears you're doing this kind of product. So you could, whatever it is, there's enough research there. You could say, okay, here's what I can do, and here's a sample of a mini sample. I'd like to come in and spend 45 minutes with you discussing it. That's the new age of interviewing, whether it's Facebook, and it's probably going to be LinkedIn. It's hard to believe it wouldn't. That's where the people get online. So it's hard to believe it wouldn't be LinkedIn. But you might get the leads from some of the job boards and those other connections. I don't think most of the senior executives you want to find aren't going to be on Facebook. Maybe they'll be on Twitter, as I think they are. So you could follow them and you could find out. Just a lot of them are on Twitter. And you could say, okay, now how do I connect with that person? But I can see he or she is talking about this. Let me kind of see if I can meet someone who knows that person and get an interview or get a meeting. So that's how I would do it. I don't know if that helps or not, but I think there's some advice there on how you connected with me.
Yeah, and usually what you have said, it usually works. I've heard 2 months ago about a girl who got a job at Airbnb. And she got the job. She did the analysis of the business, how Airbnb can grow worldwide, and she just put it on the Twitter, and she tweeted it to the vice president, the president of Airbnb. They read it and they hired her straight away.
Absolutely, it's the kind of thing. And I know all the people at Airbnb in San Francisco. I go there; they're one of my clients. So, and they are a very cool company that would do that. There's some old line companies you'd have to work hard to do it, but one of those kind of companies would definitely be interested in that.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. I think it's going to be very interesting and inspiring for the people to hear that, and maybe some of them will use it as a great advice, to go on, to get the dream job for them.
Well, they should. The hidden market, and I have written jobs about the hidden job market. That's where the action is. It's easier to get in. The jobs are structured. They're not ill-defined lateral transfers. You don't have to go through all these filters. But the idea is, don't just assume it's a job interview. Just meet some people to talk. And assume it's a networking meeting that could lead to a job. Don't think it's a job interview. And I think if you take that approach, you'll have great success finding more opportunities.
Yeah, and funny enough, I just remembered that whenever someone asked me to help them, find a job, this is what I said to them. Listen, don't wait for the interview to come up or the position to come up. Just do your work, do the presentation, send it over, and if it doesn't work this month or the next month, it might work out 6 months from now. Yeah, just be proactive.
Companies always create positions. Yeah. They create positions. So it's the idea: be good enough where the company creates a position for you. So that's how you do it. Hey, Peter, thank you very much. It was great talking with you. Good luck with this.
All right, thank you very much. And probably I'll see you next year during the Personal Branding Conference. I do hope to see you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.